Today, I'm going to be reviewing a new type of lens made by Canon. This is the Canon RF 16-28mm F2.8 IS STM lens. Now this lens was announced back in February of 2025, and it's a new type of lens really, designed to bridge the gap between the very inexpensive kit lenses that you might have used all the way to the super expensive L series premium zoom lens, designed to offer you better build quality, better image quality and a nice bright aperture of f2.8 without breaking the bank. And actually, this lens is pretty affordable. Coming in at just over £1,000, this lens is significantly less than a lot of the L series zoom lenses, like for example the RF 14-35mm f4 or the very expensive RF 15-35mm f2.8. So if you're after a lens that's kind of in the middle, a lot more affordable, is this lens here worth a spot in your camera bag? Well, I guess there's only one way to find that out. And I'm gonna start right now. So this lens is made of a premium plastic and metal construction with a metal lens mount. And as it's designed to kind of have some of the features of a more expensive premium zoom lens, it does come with weather sealing, designed to repel light moisture and dust, as you can see with the weather sealing gasket at the rear of the lens. Now on the side of the lens, you've got two switches. You've got your autofocus to manual focus switch, as well as your control switch, which we'll talk about in a bit, as well as your image stabilization switch. Now this lens is designed to be as small and as lightweight as possible, so Canon have kind of compressed it slightly. So to actually use this lens and take photos, you'll have to slightly rotate the zoom ring to 16mm, and you can see it gets slightly longer. So this is an externally zooming lens. And then you can move it between 16-28mm, and it has a good amount of dampening to it. And again, when you want to put it back in your camera bag, you just simply rotate it again to its compressed state, making it slightly smaller than other lenses with a similar focal length. And then right at the front of the lens, you've got your focus ring / your control ring, and that'll be determined by the switch we were just about to talk about. At the moment, I've got it in autofocus mode, but if you place it right in the middle, you can change it into your control switch, which again, you can set with inside your camera. You can have it change aperture, ISO, shutter speed. I actually have mine connected to white balance. And the good news continues. With a fairly simple optical formula with just 16 elements in 13 groups, this lens is pretty small and lightweight, coming in at just 445 grams or just about a pound, which is significantly smaller and a lot lighter than a lot of the other ultra-wide angle zoom lenses, like the RF 14-35mm f4. That lens there comes in at 540 grams or 1.19 pounds, or the lens with the same aperture, the RF 15-35mm f2.8. That lens there comes in at 840 grams or just about 2 pounds. So I think this lens is really small and lightweight for the overall focal length and aperture. And if we have a look at the size chart here, if you're after the smallest lens, this is by far your best option, especially if you're a travel content creator or travel landscape photographer. And with a pretty small filter thread of just 67mm, filters should be fairly affordable and easy to find from your local camera shop. Now the only disappointing part of this lens is, realistically, the lack of accessories. For some bizarre reason, just because it's not an L series zoom lens, Canon haven't added any accessories. So you're not going to be getting a lens hood with this lens or a lens pouch. Now that is kind of usual for many Canon lenses, but I'm always going to mention it because Canon should definitely be adding a lens hood with this lens, especially when you think about price point. So overall, when it comes to build quality, it's exactly what I was going to be expecting, kind of in the middle. Better than your kit lens as it comes with things like weather sealing, but not as good as your super expensive L series zoom lens. It's basically in the middle, which again reflects the price point. So this lens has a fairly useful but not massively versatile focal range of 16mm, which is ultra wide angle, offering you roughly a 100-degree field of view, all the way to 28mm, which is medium standard length, coming in with roughly 65-degree field of view. Now this is a fairly useful focal length for quite a wide variety of different types of photography. I imagine a lot of landscape photographers, content creators, street photography, even astrophotographers will find a use with this lens. I actually use mine for weddings, for more environmental portraits and some landscape photos. But the main reason you'd want to buy this lens over other lenses is going to be that aperture. F2.8 is a very bright aperture on a zoom lens, usually only left for very expensive L series zoom lenses. So it's nice to see that Canon have added it to one of a more affordable lens. Now this is going to give you two major benefits. At 16mm, you'll be able to shoot at a lot lower light, where at 28mm, you'll be able to actually introduce some depth of field to your photos. And that'll be really good, especially for a lot of wedding and content creators that photograph people. I must say, a lot of the photos I was incredibly happy with, and I was actually struggling to determine which photos I took on my more expensive premium prime lens versus this lens, which really shows you I think the image quality is on par with lenses that are significantly more expensive. But how well did this lens actually perform optically? Let's have a look at a few graph images. So I tested this lens on this. This is my full frame Canon EOS R5 with a very demanding 45 megapixel full frame sensor. So let's have a look at sharpness first with corrections turned on. Wide open at 16mm at f2.8. Okay, so let's zoom into the center, and actually we're getting pretty good center sharpness. Lots of contrast and not much in the way of chromatic aberration. So let's go ahead and look into the corners. Now the corners aren't as good as the center, but they definitely hold up quite well. There's a good amount of contrast and a good amount of resolution, although they'll say they're a little bit darker with a little bit more chromatic aberration than I was expecting. Now we can improve that if we step down to f4, f5.6, and I'd say it's really good around f8 to f11. But it does start to soften around f16, and the image is quite soft at f22, but that is due to diffraction, which is definitely more noticeable on higher resolution photos. Okay, so now let's zoom into 28mm. And I'd say the overall center sharpness is a lot better in my opinion. You're getting a lot more resolution and a lot more contrast. This looks a lot more crisper. And I think that's the same situation for the corners. I think the corners are performing a lot better at 28mm versus 16mm wide open at f2.8. Now we can improve that by stepping down to f4, f5.6, and again, around f8 to f11 seems to be the sweet spot for this lens. But again, it does start to soften around f16, and it's a little bit softer versus f8, and again, that's f22, and that's just thanks to diffraction, which again is more noticeable on higher resolution photos. Now, something I see a lot of inexpensive lenses suffer from is flaring. So let's see how well this lens holds up, and actually, not too bad. I've seen better, but I've also seen worse. The contrast is quite good, but there's definitely some strong flaring artifacts you can see in the photo. And annoyingly, you don't get a lens hood. So actually, I personally would recommend a lens hood with this lens, but you don't get one inside the box. And related to flaring is sunstars, and actually a very good performance. Sunstars start to appear at around f8, and they're very prominent between f16 and f22. So if you are after a lens for landscape photography, this is an ideal one, and I really like the sunstars. Okay, so let's see how well this lens performs optically by turning corrections off and having a look at distortion and vignetting. Oh my goodness, the distortion of this lens is extreme. You can really see very heavy barrel distortion. But again, that is to be expected, and you can really see that the digital lens corrections are working on overtime. And the vignetting is also quite bad as well, with actual true black corners. Now you can't really improve it either. If you step down to f5.6, f8 and f11, that vignetting pretty much stays the same. So now let's test it at 28mm. Far less barrel distortion, although there is still a little bit, and that vignetting has pretty much disappeared, although there's a small amount of graduated vignetting, although we can push it to the corners at f5.6 all the way to f8. So highly recommend turning on lens corrections, as this lens is really designed for it to work with it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with very strong distortion images, which might not look very good. And with a minimum focus distance of just 20 centimeters, with a maximum reproduction ratio of 0.26, this is well above average for its macro performance, and actually really impressive. You can get very close to your subjects when you zoom in at 28mm, and close-up image quality is, well, okay, wide open at f2.8, but you can dramatically improve it. When you step to f4, f5.6, and then f8, you're getting razor sharp images. So for its macro performance and close-up image quality, it's well above average. You might want to step down a couple of stops though to get the best resolution. So overall, the image quality is a lot better than a kit lens, but not as good as an L series zoom lens. Again, right bang smack in the middle. Now, if you'd like to have a look at any of the sample photos that I've taken for this review, you can go ahead to the link in the description, download them, the high-res versions, and pixel peep as much as you want. Now, something this lens hasn't inherited from the more expensive lenses is going to be its autofocus motor. Just having the standard autofocus motor that you can find in more budget-orientated lenses. That's the STM or stepping motor, where more expensive lenses have the USM motor, that's the ultrasonic motor. But because of the focal length, you're not really going to notice that. At 16mm, it's very difficult to notice that your photo is going to be out of focus just due to the wide angle nature of your photos. You might notice it more at 28mm, but again, the likelihood of you photographing very fast moving subjects with this focal length is probably very slim, but that's definitely something to think about and add to your buying decision. If you want a faster autofocus motor, it might be worth spending the extra money on the 14-35mm or 15-35mm f2.8. But something this lens has inherited from the more expensive lenses is the image stabilization, and it's very impressive with this lens. You could easily use this lens handheld, which is going to be very useful for a lot of content creators. Canon say it's got 5 stops in the lens, and then you get an additional 3 stops if you couple it with a camera with IBIS, which stands for in-body image stabilization. Now, I'd say the real world of this is probably 5 to 6 stops, but you can really see the difference. Here is image stabilization turned off and then turned on. And you can see a lot of these sample content creator vlogging shots look very smooth, and this is without any digital stabilization. And if you turn digital stabilization on, you're getting even smoother footage, and you're not seeing much of that classic Canon wobble that you got on older ultra wide angle zoom lenses, so they've clearly fixed that issue. So overall, the autofocus and image stabilization of this lens is very good. Almost as good, but not quite, of some L series zoom lenses. So overall, what do I think of this lens, and do I recommend it for your camera bag? Well, to answer it quickly and easily, let's play a little game. On one side here, I've got my 16-28mm f2.8. And here, I've got the more expensive 15-35mm f2.8. Both have got the same aperture, so let's really put this to the test. Here are 2 photos. Can you guys guess which one was shot on the 16-28mm, a lens that's half the price of the 15-35mm? Now, straight away, it might be difficult, so let's go ahead and zoom in. Let's go and have a look at the photo, really compare them. Can you guys guess? Before I tell you the answer, write it down in the comments. 3, 2, 1. That is the photo that I've taken on the 15-35mm. And I've got to admit, it was very difficult to tell, which really does show you how well optically the 16-28mm is. Now, of course, if you are comparing these lenses, there are just a little bit different. Obviously, this one's got a less versatile zoom range. 15-35mm is a lot more useful, and I actually dedicatedly use this for my weddings, where this one here, I did find I had to get a little bit closer or a little bit further away than I'm used to. But I've got to admit, for the price, that is definitely really good value for money. I've always said this is just too expensive, where they needed something a little bit cheaper, and Canon have finally answered it with the 16-28mm. And for content creation, this is going to be a great lens, as it has as good image stabilization as a lens that's almost twice the price. this lens definitely here is great value for money. And it really does show you in the overall score. With an overall score of 43 out of 50, that is a very high score. This is a highly recommended lens to have in your camera bag. Thank you to all of my YouTube members that are currently supporting the channel. If you guys want to support the channel and get some awesome perks, including free Lightroom presets and get to watch videos just like this before they go live, make sure to go ahead to the link in the description. I've been James for Photo Fever, and I'll catch you guys next week.